So I've got this trailer axle, and I was trying to replace the hub with one from Academy, but this bearing is stuck on the shaft. The reason is, you can see it or not, but there's some defects in this shaft actually from the previous bearing and or unit. The previous setup that was on there kind of jacked it up a little bit, but this bearing should sit okay where it needs to seat at. So I think we're okay. And then of course you got this grease seal that goes on there. This bearing should go all the way up to this lip and sit, and then this grease seal should sit right there. So I think we're okay if I can get this bearing past these defects. I had another defect that I had to get past right there, and it must have been just a tiny little lip. So what I'm doing is I'm taking compressed air, bought this at Lowe's, taking a chunk of 1 inch schedule 80. Remember, I think that's what this is, the thicker walled stuff from Lowe's, and just a dead blow hammer. And what I'm doing with the compressed air is turning this one upside down and just carefully freezing the liquid nitrogen that comes out when you turn this can upside down. Be careful you don't get this on your skin, it'll freeze your skin. And just freezing the axle itself. Also freeze the inside bearing race and the bottom of this, the back side of this thing, all the way around as best you can. You should get at least 4 or 5 uses out of this can. And just cool this area down right here. And then as soon as you get that frost build up on this, the bearing itself and the axle, then get right on it and smack it with that dead blow hammer and get this thing sealed down. It's going to be very difficult for me to do this on camera, I think, but you get the gist of it. So upside down with the compressed air. Let's pre-cool this axle just a little bit. Just doing a real light squeeze on that trigger. Get this ice forming on here. And then go ahead and hit the back side of that bearing. You want to, basically it's shrinking the inside diameter of that bearing race, if you will. And by shrinking, it's making the hole bigger. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but that's actually what's going on. This does work. I should have put this bearing in the freezer, but now it's stuck on the axle. So this is the only option I'm left with. You can see the bearing starting to freeze up a little bit. The 1 inch diameter PVC on here is because the inside bearing race is that 1 inch diameter. And I'm using a Schedule 80, it's a little thicker, a little more durable. Oops, try to freeze my finger a little bit. So I'm gonna get right on this. I'll probably have to pull the camera off just to be able to manage this project. But you can see that bearing starting to freeze up nicely. That means the inside diameter is starting to shrink. I don't want to put a whole lot on that PVC itself because I don't want to make that PVC brittle. So you can see that sucker is about as cold as it's going to get. Let's nail this sucker off camera. All right, so we got her past our next defect. Got to keep going. Okay, so I'm almost there. I had to switch to a bigger hammer, hitting it with the side of the hammer, not the head of the hammer. I want to split that PVC. We're almost there. Okay, so now what I don't know is, it sure seems like that bearing is as far down as it's going to go. Man, it needs to go just a little further though. Alright, so I didn't think I was going to get it down there to that neck, but I did one last Hail Mary, froze it again, and just put this 1 inch on there. Took the small maul and just with a sideways smack just came up high and just smacked it down one last time, and it actually seated itself. But being gentle was not going to get it down at that to that last lip right there. So bearing is still in good shape, again, because the inside diameter of this 1 inch happens to fit perfectly on the inside bearing race there, so it doesn't put any pressure on the outside. There's no way to actually even make contact with that outside bearing race there, or the bearings themselves. So now we just wait for this to warm up, for that frost to come off. Go ahead and take some compressed air, and I'll blow out this grease seal. Pack that grease seal with some bearing grease, high-speed bearing grease, and we should be good to go. I'll reseat that on there and be done. And then the second problem I'm having on this Triton trailer, I had it on the other side as a pain in the ass, is this bolt. You got one of these that where the strut, what do you call it? The spring floats on. This one's easy to get out, but this one has this little kind of like a sleeve on it, and you take off this nut on the back side and this thing is still harder than hell to get out of there. So the sleeve portion is up in here, so I want to go ahead and freeze that and try to see if I have enough coolant left. I'll freeze this first, and I'll freeze kind of like up in the nooks here just to try to get this thing to shrink the diameter a little bit using that same compressed gas method. And I'm going to bang the living shit out of this. Put the nut on just loosely, maybe a few turns down, so hopefully I don't bugger up the threads too bad, but I'm sure it's going to be trash when I'm done anyway. And if you just try to bang on that right now, it is a bugger to try to get that thing to budge all the way till you get it out almost. Alright, so as you can see, we've got a nice frosty layer there. We'll go ahead and you can see it's barely budging, even hitting it pretty good, so I'm going to put down the camera and wail on this thing. So what you're looking at here is basically it's got a little bit of a riffle on the right just underneath the head of that bolt. Hard to see that, but I'll turn my flash on maybe. There you go. But that is just it's a tight fit in the first place in there. But it doesn't want to come out. I don't know if it's because it's corroded or what the deal is, but both these are saying they just don't want to come out willingly. So I'm ending up having to take a punch from the bottom side and actually punch that sucker out of there and really ream on it. So anyway, that's what I use to get these out.